Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the second part of our Women in Medicine and Science Leadership series. We will be getting started in just a few minutes. I would like to mention that this session is being recorded.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Laura Worrell, and I'm the Director of Continuing Professional Development at SIU School of Medicine. I'd like to welcome you to the Women in Medicine and Science Leadership Series. This is our second session of the series, and tonight the presenter is Mr. David Ziebler, and the presentation is titled Utilizing Coaching to Develop Professionally and Personally. Before we get started, I have just a couple housekeeping announcements for you. First, we encourage you to use the computer audio feature of the webinar. If you experience any audio interference, such as static or intermittent audio due to a busy network, you can use the optional phone connection, which was provided in your registration email. When using the phone for audio, mute the computer audio by clicking the speaker icon in the bottom right corner of your computer. Avoid exiting the webinar because your online attendance is timed, and disconnecting from the webinar before the end may affect your credit total. Second, we will have a live Q&A at the end of the session. You can submit questions anytime during the program by using the chat function, which we discovered today when we logged on has moved. We don't have the bubbles across the bottom of the screen like we used to. The chat is down in the bottom right corner of your screen. So you can submit questions using the chat. You can also use the raise hand function, which is at the bottom of the participant list. And it's a real tiny little box with a hand icon in it. It's kind of hard to see. But if you raise your hand, the host will unmute you and you can ask your question. And then finally, to get your CME credit, watch for an email that you should get in the next day or two, and it will have a link and instructions for you to log in and do the evaluation and then get your certificate. And you'll have 2 weeks to complete that evaluation. And just one final reminder, again, is that this program is being recorded. So I will pass it to Dr. Prakash, and she will introduce our speaker.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Laura, and welcome to everybody. We are delighted to have you here. It is a great honor for me to introduce our special guest today, Mr. David Ziebler. David works for SIU School of Medicine as the Director of Organization and Employee Development. He spends his time at the School of Medicine engaging in internal development consulting, professional and leadership development coaching, employee training, new employee orientation, and in facilitating improved organizational performance. David has been with the School of Medicine for 7 years and has been in the field of organizational development for over 10. He holds a Master of Science in Management and Organizational Behavior from Benedictine University and a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology from Eastern Illinois University. David has been married to his wife, Chelsea, for 7 years, and they have 4-year-old twins, Landon and Leah. Mr. Ziebler is a Workforce Magazine 2017 Game Changer, Registered Organization Development Consultant, Association for Talent Development Designated Master Trainer, EI or Emotional Intelligence Assessor and Coach, Inside Out Development and Coaching System Instructor, Certified Life Space Crisis Interventionist, and Certified Level 1 Scenario Planner. Having had the privilege of working with David over the last several years, I would also classify him as a huge he for she ally. He has been a tremendous asset to the Alliance for Women in Medicine and Science, truly an asset to us and to our entire SIU organization. And I would like to extend a warm welcome to you, David. We're really looking forward to your presentation tonight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prakash. I'm humbled by your words, and I couldn't be more grateful and thankful for being here today to speak to you and to everybody here today. It's my honor to work for the School of Medicine and to do this this evening's presentation, and to be here for everybody. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I will begin my presentation by saying that it's important to understand that no matter what you have accomplished, what you seek to understand, what you endeavor to, how many certifications you've received, or how many degrees you have, or even I have, I need a coach just as bad as anybody else, if not probably more. And it's important that everybody understands that. And it's important that you know that I seek to be coached as much as I seek to coach others. And that is a very, very important thing. So I will have Miss Jennifer Coyle here today working my slides. So if we could have that shared with everybody here real fast, Ms. Coyle, that would be wonderful, and we will get started here today. Also, while that's being done, I would like to encourage everybody throughout the session to raise their hands if they would like to ask a question while I'm covering a specific topic. If I happen to miss that, send Jennifer a quick chat or send me a quick chat message. I want to be sure that we ask questions as they come up. Of course, we will have time at the end of the presentation to do that. That is to ask questions and field them from the audience. But I just want to be sure that if there's a question that's burning and it can't wait because you're afraid of forgetting it, which I totally understand, I want you to ask it. I want to ask it because I totally believe that it will enrich the conversation that we're having today. So if we can go to the first slide, I have a beautiful quote. Actually, it's the second slide technically, that I want to start our presentation with. A big influence in my life was Bruce Lee. Hopefully that gentleman needs no introduction, but he said a lot of powerful things, and I think he was a wonderful example for many different people from all walks of life. And one of the things that stuck out to me and always has stuck out to me, in fact, I have a poster of it that I've been meaning to put in my office, is this quote here, which is, "Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do." And if you have ever gone through a challenge, a difficult time, or even a successful period in your life, you'll know that this statement rings true because we all know, right? Some things that we need to be doing differently. We all know where we might need to improve and where we might need to continue to improve. And we might be willing to do so. But there comes a point in our lives where there's this obstacle, whether it be literal or mental, and the doing part gets interrupted. And coaching and self-coaching allows us the opportunity to know and apply and to be willing and to do. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the definition of coaching, what its benefits are, how to be coachable, how to maintain coachability. And then, of course, we're going to spend some quality time on self-coaching and how to do that exactly. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Jen, I would greatly appreciate it. So there's a lot of words on this screen, and I apologize for that. I think it is pretty taboo to fill a PowerPoint slide this much. So as my mother would say, don't do as I do, do what I tell you. So don't put this many words on a slide, but in risking a slight faux pas, for your benefit, I've done it. I want you to see these various different coaching definitions because I really think it encompasses from many different angles what coaching is. So let's take a look at the first one, right? And the ICF is an acronym for the International Coaches Federation. The ICF is an accrediting body, the accrediting body for coaches all over the world, internationally. And they are really the legitimate organization that you want to work with as a coach and when seeking coaches. And they, of course, have the definition, in my opinion. The ICF then defines coaching as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. Now, it really can't get any better than that, but I do love these other quotes. We're partnering with people. And if you're going to self-coach, you need to understand that you yourself are a partner in your own development, in your own journey to become the best version of yourself. And I'm not asking people to talk to themselves here, but I am asking you to think about yourself. And that's very important. So we need to go through this thought-provoking and creative process so that we can get this inspiration and we can eventually reach our highest level of potential possible. Let's take a look at this next the definition I have here. Coaching is the facilitation of learning and development with the purpose of improving performance and enhancing effective action, goal achievement, and personal satisfaction. I'm going to stop right there because many people think that coaching is only about performance and it's only about goals. But really, it's also about, and this might be one of the most major things it's really about is personal satisfaction. And with personal satisfaction, there comes a lot of different things, mainly happiness. And I believe that if you're happy, you will be able to reach the goals that you have a lot easier. You will be able to perform at your highest levels. You will be able to become the best version of yourself. And what's exciting is that as you become more happy, your performance increases. And as you increase your performance and achieve more and become a better version of yourself, your happiness increases along with that, and it becomes cyclical. And the same, unfortunately, can happen if you're not evolving, if you're not developing, if you are unhappy. So it's very important to stay on the path of development. Let's continue with this real fast. It invariably involves growth and change, whether that is in perspective, attitude, or behavior. That, I think, is very profound. So when we're coaching and when we're self-coaching or being coached, we are going to need to be open to the idea that our attitudes, our behaviors, and our perspectives will change. And that's for the better, because how can you evolve? How can you change? How can you become something different if, in fact, your perspective, your attitude, or your behavior doesn't change? So let's look at this third definition. This is from the Coaching Bible by Ian McDermott and Wendy Jago. It's a wonderful book. It's easy to read. If you're interested in coaching, I highly recommend it. In fact, I have it right here, the Coaching Bible. It's wonderful. Every coach, every leader should have this book, in my opinion. And in fact, here's a quick plug. I know it's my science. I know it's my passion. I know, folks here might know me for being a coach, but coaching is the new leadership style. It's the leadership style of the future. And if you want an edge in leading, not just the people that you work with, but yourself and maybe even the people at home, right? You look into coaching because it makes things a lot easier. I've used coaching in my personal life with my children. Things like teaching them to ride a bike, learning how to write letters, uppercase and lowercase. And a quick update, they are 5 years old now. I need to update my bio. I apologize for that, but they are in kindergarten, and it's difficult to remain calm. But when I apply with 5-year-olds, that is, who are struggling learning their letters, when I apply a coaching approach instead of a dad approach per se, when I become the guide and the support system as opposed to an authoritarian bread giver, I see that things become much different. My relationship becomes much different. My children act much different. And I've also seen the same thing happen with other human beings I work with and people that I've led in the past. So let's take a look at this real fast. Coaching is a conversational yet focused discipline that supports people in learning how to lead and manage themselves more effectively in relation to their issues, their resources, their context, and their potential. I love that right there. Let's go on. Last but not least, coaching, you see, is not telling people what to do. It's giving them a chance to examine what they are doing in the light of their intentions. So we're never going to be a person that tells someone what to do if we're coaching. The idea of the high school coach who tells you how you need to play or how you need to correct this or that, that's not the type of coaching that we're engaging in. It is a form of coaching. We're putting information into the person. But the type of coaching that you want to engage in with the people that you lead and with yourself is the idea that the people that you work with are whole, curious, resourceful, and in knowing all of these things, they have answers within them that we want to bring out. You don't want to give them the answers because, as we know, if it was that easy to help people develop, people would just be giving advice all the time and we'd all be champions. We'd all be the best at anything we wanted to do. We just would seek the advice. But the answers that we ourselves discover through a line of questioning, through a reflective process, gives us the opportunity to get excited, to get motivated, and to really be willing to pursue and do what is necessary in order to make change. Are there any questions so far? I know it's early to start fielding questions, but I want to be sure that I don't miss anything from anybody. Let's see. Okay.
No questions so far.
Beautiful, beautiful. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves. I'm getting excited. I do apologize. I have a Labrador Retriever that's a 1.5 years old that's very excited about life. So you may hear her in the background. My apologies. So let's move on to that next slide, please, Jen, if you could. So how can coaching help you? Well, I talked a little bit about it already, but let's just look at these bullet points here and just do it quick and dirty. It allows you to gain clarity. It will enhance your self-awareness, and it facilitates breakthroughs. Now, these top 3 are written there for a reason, because when we are often stuck or when we are looking to improve, we may not be able to see through the forest. We may not be able to understand what it is that we need to do in order to improve or to get to the next level. So when you are coaching yourself or when you're getting coaching, that clarity, right, then leads to this self-awareness of who you are, of what needs to be done, of what needs to be improved or changed, or what perspective you need to have. And then this then leads to breakthrough in terms of your character, in terms of your performance, in terms of the way that you have conversations, and even the way that you lead others and yourself. Coaching can help you develop your potential and build up your skills. So as we get this clarity and self-awareness and we break through, our ability, our potential to improve who we are increases. And of course, we're having conversations with ourselves about what skills we need to improve, what skills we need to acquire, what we need to adapt, so forth and so on. Coaching then, after this self-reflection and this discovery, allows us to create these plans, these plans of action. And action is really the best part of the coaching process, because we've all been able to reflect. We've all been able to discover. But how many people have pulled the trigger and taken action that day, not the next day or not later that week or even that next month, but that day? That's what coaching allows us to do and gets us excited and motivated for. So it helps you get unstuck as well. Stuck in a rut, stuck in habits, stuck in the same person, you might have been 10 years ago. And I say this often, but it's important to understand that I firmly believe that if you don't go through some type of coaching process with another person or with yourself, if you don't reflect, if you don't discover who you are, what you need to do to improve, you're in danger of dying the same person you are today. And if you haven't been engaging in this type of work or this type of behavior, you might be the same person you were 10 years ago. Maybe you've gotten a promotion, maybe you've got more credentials, sure. But the internal person, the person that you are on the inside, that manages their emotions in a certain way, that speaks to people in a certain way, that controls or does not control their impulses in a certain way, that person may not have changed. And it's important to understand that if that person doesn't change, you will lie on your deathbed and you may feel regret. Regardless of what you believe, I think in the end, we all look at ourselves in the proverbial mirror. And coaching helps you look in that mirror that last time and be okay with what you were on this earth. Getting a little deep here on a Tuesday afternoon. I apologize for that, but I really want to bring home exactly the power of coaching. And that's our next bullet point. It empowers and it motivates you. Right? It motivates you to want to get something done. It empowers you to know the process, to work the process, and to feel proud of yourself for doing exactly that. That is where you get power from, by working the process. If you've ever been, looking at a to-do list and it's organized and it's well thought out and it's exactly the way it needs to be, right? I don't know if anybody else is like that, but when I have a to-do list and it's perfectly organized, that just feels good. And when you look at that to-do list at the end of the day, and every single thing has a line through it, I don't know if there's a better feeling in the workplace, knowing that you got things done, knowing that you set your mind to something and it was accomplished. And often you might find that, you write another to-do list. What are we going to do tomorrow? And how are we going to do it? And do I need to plan my week or my month out now? Because you're hot, you're excited, you've got energy, and you want to get things done because you did it. That process that you went through can be continual. It can be continual. All you have to do is sit with someone or yourself and coach. Ask yourself questions, reflect, discover, apply, take action. Next bullet point, it creates increased levels of life satisfaction, self-regard, and self-confidence. So we've already talked about the satisfaction that would come from getting your to-do list done and meeting your goals and developing as a person and being right with yourself at the end of your lifespan. But as you go through this process towards the end, as you take that journey, your ability to regard yourself, right? To say, you know what? I am good at cooking. I am a good leader. I have done this well, and that's awesome. That increases. And what I have seen, and since this is a leadership development series, I'll talk about this with you folks. I've seen people in high-level positions and even frontline leadership who, even though they are experts at what they do, they have years of experience, they have the education and the credentials, and by everybody else's opinion, they are wonderful as a human, as a person, and as a professional, yet they don't believe the things that are said about them, or they downplay the things that are said about them. Typically speaking, it's known as imposter syndrome, but we're using a different term for it now. It's imposter phenomenon. Because how could a person who is so high functioning, so successful, who is seen so positively, doubt themselves, not accept compliments? So as your ability to coach yourself improves, as you become more humble, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, improves, your self-regard, your ability to regard yourself goes up. And then, of course, this leads to more life satisfaction, and we get that positive cycle that feeds itself and that continues and that allows us to grow and grow and grow and feel happy. And lastly, it creates increased levels of self-confidence. Knowing that you can regard yourself and be satisfied and that you've accomplished these things that you've set out to do, you begin to gain the confidence to do things that normally you would have shied away from. So you become more bold, you become more assertive, you become more brave inside and outside of the workplace. And again, this leads to life satisfaction. This leads to happiness. This leads to increased levels of performance. Coaching is very powerful, folks. It's one of the best things I've ever discovered in my life. And I really encourage you to not just watch this and to read a book, but to begin doing it. And in fact, I'm going to teach you here how to do that in just a little bit. So I've said it brings you happiness before, so let's move on to the next slide, please, Miss Coyle. So how can we become more coachable? Because of course we must be in a coachable state in order to coach ourselves or to be coached. And the first thing that you have to do is you have to first be humble. Now, it's important to understand that I do not mean the type of humility that people usually display when they receive a compliment. Hey, you're a good speaker. Oh, I'm not that good. I'm not that good. That's not what I'm talking about. And in fact, that's not actual true humility. In fact, that's lying. And to be humble actually means to tell the truth, to be truthful about your skill level or about who you are. And I give this example when I talk to my coachees or to my training participants. If you were to come over to my house and I was to cook you a nice meal, and let's just say that in this hypothetical situation, I had recently moved to the United States and I had spent some time in France, in Paris, cooking at a 3-star Michelin restaurant for about 10 years as head chef. And as I cook you this meal, and as of course, it would be in courses, of course, you begin to say things like, this is amazing. Oh my goodness, look at you go. Wow, you're really good at this. And I said something like, oh, I'm not that good. Oh, stop. Like, please. It's just something I whipped together. I'm not exactly being honest, am I? I'm not exactly being truthful. And in fact, if you really think about it, I'm kind of being rude to you because I'm downplaying the nice things that you're saying to me. And essentially, I'm saying that your opinion is wrong. People are allowed to have their opinion. And if you're telling me something nice, like this food is delicious, look at you go, you're amazing, where did you learn how to cook, right? I'm stealing that that moment of pleasure that you have as a guest in complimenting me. Now, I'm getting a little sidetracked because I'm pretty passionate about this sort of thing. But as a sidebar, please accept compliments. Say thank you. I really appreciate that. And then move on. But back to the hypothetical situation, if I were to say, well, thank you so much for saying those things, it really means a lot to me. I've worked pretty hard at this particular dish for a long time, and it really makes me happy that you're enjoying it. Oh, well, what do you mean you've been working at it for a long time? And this is the most important part, where you need to understand that you're not bragging, you're telling the truth. Well, I worked at a restaurant in France. I was there for about 10 years. And it was a good restaurant, and I love this dish. It's a good dish, and I've been working on it for a long time, and I really appreciate you saying that, and I really appreciate you enjoying it. So we've not bragged, we've not become a braggart, we're not arrogant. We're allowing the person to compliment us. We're accepting that compliment. We're being gracious, and we're also telling the truth that, well, I've got some experience. So it's important to be humble. So if you're going to be humble, that is how we get to be a coachable person, because you have to take a look at yourself and say, well, who am I? How am I? Am I really good at this, or am I really bad? Do I need to improve a little, or do I need to improve a lot? We have to be able to tell the truth about who we are and how far we need to go yet. So you have to be okay with being comfortable or uncomfortable, specifically, if you're going to be coachable. Because if it was easy, everybody would be coaching and having self-reflective conversations. Now, personally, I think everybody should, but people shy away from the coaching process because they have to face themselves. They have to answer hard questions, and this is uncomfortable. So you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you can hone that skill of being uncomfortable, then you can be as coachable as you possibly can be. So if you're going to become more coachable, you have to be able to ask yourself, right, and answer those tough questions, and you have to be willing to self-reflect. You know, I know, unfortunately, some people who, how's this? I'll tell a story about a family member who happens to also be a close friend. They have had a tough life, and this manifests in different ways. But one of the ways that it really manifests in a very prevalent way is one that I've noticed, is that they don't want to be still. And in fact, it has come to the point where they won't even stand in lines. Because what happens in a line? We sit, we stand, we're quiet. I'll strike up a conversation with almost anybody, but I'm an exception. I'm part of the fringe human beings that are out there. Typically speaking, we stand in line, we mind our own business, we're quiet. And if we don't have a phone, we're left alone with ourselves. And in that moment, there's an opportunity to self-reflect. There's an opportunity to think. So if we shy away from the ability to think and reflect about who we are, then we won't get to where we need to. Then we can't have the growth. Then we can't have the opportunity to improve our performance. So I really, really advise all of you to begin the coaching process within yourselves by sitting, thinking, and reflecting. People always like to talk about how they like to have a cup of coffee in the morning out on the porch, or a cup of tea in the evening in the same location. But are you listening to music? Are you reading? Or are you sitting there thinking and reflecting? Because if you are, then you're getting the most out of that situation. That's what I recommend. You have to be willing to admit your faults and to confront them. So that's the next step, right? If we're willing, great. If we can see them and we can discover them after some reflection, fantastic, right? But if we run and, like the ostrich does, hide our head in the sand, nothing's going to happen. So if you're going to be coachable, right? Know, look, discover your faults, admit them, and then take that next step to confront them. Because when you confront them, then we can create a plan of action. We can do what we need to do to change it. And that's that next step, right? Taking action and being willing being willing. We have to do, but we have to be willing to do what's necessary to do it. Any questions so far? I just want to check our time and make sure that I'm fielding them.
Not so far.
Okay, well, hopefully I'm not boring everybody. Hopefully this is good stuff.
Not at all.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Let's take this next slide, please. So maintaining coachability then becomes something very important. So we've gotten to a point where we're coachable, but how do we maintain that level of coachability, and how do we even drive it further? So, you know, I really like the concept of the Renaissance person, a person who is a master of none, but a jack of all trades, that sort of thing. I aspire to be a Renaissance person. I aspire to know many different things. And what it has led me to is the knowledge of people who I've come to admire, and who are masters and or the best at their craft. And my wife and I, we dedicate Friday nights. Usually Friday nights is family movie pizza night. You're going to get a little insight into who we are as a family. And this is a tradition that was started when I was a kid with my father. So I've carried it on with my children. And currently we're screening 80s movies, just so you know where we're at. I got in trouble because we showed him Ghostbusters and I forgot a couple scenes to fast forward through. So definitely got in trouble there. But typically we like to keep it light, Disney movies, that sort of thing. But we also do documentaries once the kids go to bed. And one of the documentaries that I really, really am fascinated with is this documentary called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. And this gentleman, Jiro, is, or at least was, their stars were taken away, but was the proprietor of the only sushi restaurant in the world to have 3 Michelin stars. And if you don't know what Michelin stars are, it's essentially a ranking by a tire company that's become very famous for ranking restaurants. And there's a documentary on that as well, if you want to see that. And when you get 3 stars, it's one of the best restaurants that there can possibly be. There are not that many in the world. But anyway, the path to becoming a 3-star restaurant is long, arduous, and it takes a lot of dedication and work. And the gentleman, Jiro, worked for a lifetime seeking perfection in the art of making sushi. And I was inspired by what I saw in this man. And there were some sacrifices that he made, but he was constantly seeking perfection, the perfect cut of meat, the perfect recipe for rice, the perfect way to roast seaweed so that it could be made into a delicate paper that wraps the sushi. It was amazing. And when you look at masters like this, whether it's a master sushi chef or a master cobbler, noodle maker, a master physician, a master leader, the real masters who you see as being perfect or near perfect will always tell you that they aren't and that there is no such thing as perfection. And, you know, when I first realized that, when I first saw that in 1 or 2 different areas or documentaries or books, it was kind of disheartening for me at the time. It was hard for me to accept, how could perfection not be attainable? You know, we all strive for perfection. We all want to be the best version of ourselves, to be perfect. And in fact, it's a big contributor to the imposter phenomenon. But when you step back and you understand, remember, and begin to delight in the fact that perfection is unattainable, but the path to perfection is there and will always remain, you become a little bit more lighthearted, light-footed, and you understand that being on the path to perfection, being coachable, engaging in coaching, looking to what you can improve, how you can improve, and what you can do to be a better version of yourself. It's the closest you'll ever be. And in fact, that is the state of perfection. Simply being on the path, looking to improve, looking to coach. So if you want to maintain your ability to be coachable, understand that no matter how far you've come, there's more to go. There's always going to be more to go, and that's okay. It's exciting if you really think about it. It should not be exhausting. It should not be debilitating. And it should not be disappointing. It should be something that is exciting to you, because no matter how good you become as a professional, as a human being, you can become better. Others can see you as the best there is, and that's awesome. And you should accept those compliments, and you should regard yourself as having reached a certain level of well, it's not perfection, right? But a certain level of functionality. And then you should look forward to what's next and be fun and excited about it. So remember to be humble. Remember to tell the truth about yourself always. Where am I at? Who am I? What could I be doing better? What am I good at? What do I need to continue to improve? And do that, right, by reflecting on a daily basis. And here's a great practice to maintain your coachability. It's also dangerous, so be careful. But ask those that are closest to you. Ask your loved ones, right? Your husbands, your wives, your partners, whoever. Ask them for feedback. And most importantly, ask them what you can improve on. Ask them the questions you have about yourself. Hey, am I really this good, or am I really this bad? Or what do I really need to work on? Am I doing this? And is that wrong? Because if we can take the truth, not just from ourselves, but from those closest to us, from the ones that we love, and we engage in that practice regularly, and we can confront the faults and the drawbacks and the areas of improvement that are needed, we've got something pretty powerful there. So I also recommend that if you're going to maintain your coachability, that you coach others, that you engage in coaching conversations with others, because this keeps the practice top of mind. It keeps it fresh in your own toolkit, and it allows you to see the benefits of coaching that exist within others, that are displayed within others as they grow. And then, of course, that will motivate you, and this positive cycle of improvement will continue. And then, of course, don't forget to get coached, and get coached often. And I'm happy to take anybody on as a coachee. And we have several other coaches here on staff at CHOP who would be eager as well. And we're looking for more opportunities to create more coaches. So get coached and get coached often. Let's move on to that next slide, because now we're really getting into the meat of things here. I'm very excited for this part. So self-coaching and how to do it. So there's a couple different models out there, but the model that I really like, that I've developed, and it's not the greatest, it's not the worst, right? Is this self-reflection, discovery, and action/application model. And I really like this because, number one, everything begins with your thoughts. Everything begins with your ability to see who you are and why you are a certain way, or what it is that you need to improve or continue to further develop. And through the self-reflection process, we ask ourselves these powerful, critical questions about who we are and what we want to accomplish. And it's important to understand that everything begins with these questions. So if you're going to learn to self-coach, really what you have to do is learn how to ask great, critical, powerful, thought-provoking questions. So I want to give you some examples of some. So here's a great question, right? Because we gave the example of the mirror at the end of our lifespan. When I'm 90 years old, what do I want to have accomplished? Now, that question alone, with a cup of tea, you might need a pot of tea to answer that question, because there's a lot of things that I'm sure you want to accomplish by the time you hit 90 years old. But we can't just think about it. We've got to reflect and write things down, because that's probably how we're going to create a plan of action. What does a successful life or a successful career look like to me? What does it look like for me to be successful? Because it's important to understand that success for everybody is essentially a different definition, especially when it comes to your career. Some people may be excited to make it to here, and that's what success looks like. Or some people won't be satisfied until they're here, whatever that means for them. Success and your definition of success is unique. So you have to ask yourself, what does success look like to me? What type of life? Oh, yes,
David,
please.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have somebody who just raised her hand.
Beautiful.
Shilpa Mehta. So Jennifer, if you could unmute Shilpa so she may ask her question.
Yes, please.
It looks like she has raised her hand from a non-audio line.
Okay.
There's no unmute option.
Well, that's okay. Shilpa, if you can send a chat message to me, that may work.
I can look out for the chat, David, if you want to
Okay.
go on. And
Sure.
as soon as I see her question, I will let you know.
Absolutely. So here's a powerful question. And it was actually a perfect time for the interruption because I want people to be able to think about this. This is probably one of the most important questions that you can ask yourself continuously. Am I happy with who I am, with the way that I am? Am I happy, period? And if the answer is yes, if you're happy with who you are, if you're happy with the way that you work, with the way that you're seen, if you're happy with what you've accomplished, it's important to ask the follow-up question, which is why? Why are you happy with the way that you are? And if you're not happy, right, with all of those things that I might have mentioned and or more, why is it that you're unhappy? Because by answering that question, why are you happy or why aren't you happy? It leads to this discovery of, again, the reasons behind your happiness or your unhappiness. And then we can discover what it is that's causing this unhappiness, and then we can build a plan around it. So this is leadership, right? This is a leadership development series. So as a leader, it's important to ask yourself, what kind of reputation do I want to have as a leader? How do I want to be seen? When people are in the break room talking about me, because they will, as a leader, you will be talked about. What do I want people to say? How do I want to be remembered when people retire or when they look back on their career? Do I want people to say, well, Samantha, Sheila, Stacy, Stephanie, Tara, Vidya, they were wonderful people. They helped me grow. They lifted me up. They gave me stretch assignments, which I hated at the time, but I'm thankful for that I got because it got me to this level that got me to that next level. What is it that you want to be remembered as? What type of reputation do you want to have? What am I good at? What am I good at? What am I bad at? What am I not admitting about myself? Do I actually need to confront? I firmly believe that we all know what we need to work on. We all know where our faults lie. The issue is, do we ignore it or do we admit it? Most of the time, 90% of the time, I believe we ignore it. We just move on. We continue with our life because it got me here. So obviously it can't be that bad. But that attitude is the same thing as apathy. And apathy is death. Personal death, spiritual death, professional death. It's all the same. It's all the same. So if you cannot admit the things that you need to admit, even the good things, right? Your career is dead in the water. Your life may be too. Am I destroying my own opportunities for growth and development? Am I sabotaging myself? And, this often happens. We do it to ourselves. Think of it like this. How many people here have been on a diet? Things are going great. You're down 10 pounds. Man, I'm excited about it. I've been working out hard 5 days a week, eating clean. It's been like 8 weeks. I can have a cheat meal. It's not a big deal. I deserve it. I earned it. 10 pounds? Absolutely. Yes, I'll have the fried chicken and the pizza, and bring the apple pie with a little bit of vanilla ice cream on the side. That sounds great. I'll also have the Pepsi Yes, wonderful. And then after that beautiful meal, I'm going to have a couple beers because it's Friday night. And again, I deserve it. I'm not working out tomorrow anyway. Well, what happens, right? Does this cheat meal turn into a cheat weekend? Does it turn into a cheat week? Does it turn into a cheat month? Is it over? Is your 10 pounds lost actually 3 pounds total gained since you started your weight loss journey? We sabotage ourselves sometimes. So if you're going to remain coachable, and if you're going to remain a person that can self-coach themselves, we have to be able to answer the questions, are we sabotaging ourselves? And you have to ask it. Am I doing this to myself? Am I going to do this to myself? How can I not do this? How am I going to prevent this? What makes me, and this is where we move on to discovery, what makes me want to actually not end the cheat meal after that one night? What is it? Is it really a sugar craving? Is it really that I was, I'm just kind of hungover a little bit, or from the sugar or the alcohol or the carbs, whatever it is, right? So I just need another cheat meal to, get over this. What is it really? That discoveries. So what we look for, what we see, and when we accept the answers that follow the questions we ask, that's going to be the impetus, the genesis of the action that you create. So action and application. It shouldn't say we being, but we begin to apply what we've discussed and discovered and turn those insights into real world action plans that allow us to not only develop, but to reach our personal and professional goals. So I literally recommend, right, that we take a piece of paper and a pencil and we write the questions that we want to ask ourselves down. Okay. And then as we discover the answers to those questions, those hard hitting questions, those thought-provoking, creative questions that we ask ourselves, we write down the discoveries, right? And the discoveries are, so am I as good as I think I am? No, I'm not. Well, why am I not as good as I think I am? Okay, so what do I need to do about it? Okay, well, this is what I could do. This is how I could change. How do I want to be? Well, this is what I want to be, right? And then we reverse engineer how we can get there. And that's the action plan. Well, first, if I want to get better at public speaking, I think that I'll need to write a book, not write a book, read a book, right? Maybe then one day I can write a book when I'm, the best public speaker in the area. But right now I probably should just read one. All right. Well, who can I call? Who's a good public speaker? Who do I see as a good public speaker? Let's call them, right? Are there YouTube videos that I could watch? Yeah, there you go. Okay. In what order do I want to do this? Well, I really don't like reading right now too much. So YouTube's easy. I could probably find a 10-minute video on that. So let's watch that video. Okay, cool. And I like talking to people. It's easier than reading. So I'll call so-and-so and so-and-so. They're great speakers. You know what? I don't mind going to meetings and again, talking to people. What if I just signed up for, Toastmasters? There's like 3 different chapters in Springfield. I'll do that. Cool. And then finally, when I do all those things, maybe I'll crack open that book and read that first chapter. Or maybe they have an audiobook. Yeah, there you go. Cool. So when am I going to do this, right? It's important when you're coaching yourself to set deadlines. Well, I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3 today. I can do that today. 4, 5, and 6, I can get that done by Friday of next week. So that's my deadline there. And you know what? I'm going to buy the book on Amazon. I'll do that today so I can add that to my today list. And then I'll start reading it. My deadline is 2 weeks from today. There you go. So now you've got this action plan, right? And you've begun working on becoming a better public speaker. That's it. It's that easy. Now, what's important to understand is that if you yourself are working towards becoming a public speaker, again, we remember the path that is walked only by taking one step after the other, right? And the path that continues forever, indefinitely, until we take our last breath. So if we remember that, then we know that we cannot become the best public speaker today. We can't create a plan. We can't have a conversation with ourselves in 1 hour or with a coach and become the best version of ourselves when it comes to public speaking. That cannot happen. What we can do is, as I've outlined in this mock self-coaching demonstration, that we can begin to create strategies. We can begin to create plans. We can take steps to becoming a better speaker. And as we do those things and as we execute, again, we get that momentum because we cross those things off of our list. We finish the book. We have more trainings. We schedule presentation opportunities. Maybe that's your next coaching session. And then we speak more, we read more, we view more videos, we talk to more people, we go to more Toastmaster meetings. We do things that maybe scare us anyway. You're scared of spiders, maybe just a little bit more than you're scared of public speaking. So you go to the Springfield Zoo and you go to the Arachnid House and you just stand there for 5 minutes or as long as you can take it until you run out screaming. Now public speaking doesn't seem that bad. Maybe, just maybe, you think, well, I grow wild hair and I'll do a open mic at Donnie B's stand-up comedy club. That's crazy, but I did it and I didn't get booed. So if I know what I'm talking about when it comes to my area of expertise, giving a presentation shouldn't be that bad on it. It's a lot easier than doing 5 minutes of stand-up at an open mic. I can promise you that, if you're scared of public speaking. Is this making sense to anybody? I hope it is, because the process is that easy. We have to self-reflect so that we can discover, so that we can begin to apply and take action. And the questions that you can ask yourself are unlimited. And in fact, I gave you some examples of questions you can ask yourself, but here's the beautiful part, because I know it to be true. You already know the questions you need to ask yourself. All you have to do is ask them. It all begins again with powerful questions that are honest, that are on point, and that are going to be thought-provoking. So it is 5:49, and I have finished my presentation. I would love to have some conversations or to field some questions. I want to give people a chance. Shilpa, if you have answered or asked your question yet, I'm sorry I haven't seen it, but I would love to answer some questions for everybody today.
David, I want to thank you so much for really a truly remarkable session. And I would like to invite all of our participants to either type in the chat or raise your hands to ask questions. I don't see anything in the chat just yet. I do see a comment from Melissa Cox. She said, I'm working on a meeting with my clinical team, and this is very helpful, very timely.
Well, I'm glad, Melissa, that it's very timely for you. I'm glad it's helpful. That's the idea of this sort of thing. I do have a question here that was sent to me. How do you envision that coaching would enhance our ability to mentor or to be good mentors? Great question. Dr. Prakash, Lisa Fowler from Human Resources, and Dr. John Mellinger and I have been working on putting something together. It's an article on the difference between mentoring and coaching. As you may know, AWIMS has a wonderful mentoring program, and CHOP has a great bustling coaching program. So we're putting our collective heads together, and we're wanting to really, like the Power Rangers or whatever you want to call it, join our forces. And I think it's important to understand that mentoring and coaching are very different, but I think that coaching would absolutely enhance your ability to be a mentor, and vice versa. Developing your mentorship abilities would enhance your coaching. Where as a mentor, you're through experience, through wisdom, through gained knowledge, you're sharing that in a mentor to mentee direction. As a coach, the information is being brought out of the coachee through that line of questioning. So an example conversation might be, so Vidya, I've been through the same thing, I struggle. I'm just making this up as I go on, right? And I'm only saying Vidya because I'm staring at Dr. Prakash right now. Vidya, I had the same thing happen with me and my patients. When I was going through what you're going through, this is how I got over it. This is who I talked to. This is the book I read. This is a practice that I utilized. I think that would be great for you to look into and to emulate. But let me ask a question. If things were to be different, in your interactions, what would you want to be different? So now I switch from mentorship to coaching, right? And then I follow up with, well, why is this important to you? Why do you even want to change this? Why did you come to me and ask this question today? And then we get this opportunity to start digging deeper and deeper and deeper, right? To cause this person to reflect, to discover, and then together we help them, right, create an action plan and really not just be willing to do it, but to do it. So great question. Thank you for that.
I have another comment from Krati Shohan, who says, "Thank you for this wonderful presentation. I learned so many new things about coaching."
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you liked it. I'm glad that you learned. That's the idea.
I have a question for you, David. What
Sure.
challenges have you encountered both as a coach and as a coachee in your
What challenges?
experiences? Challenges.
Well, challenges. Yeah, that's tough. So I'll answer that as a coach first. So challenges as a coach, there are many. One of the first challenges I really began to try to work on, and I still work on it, is the challenge of shutting up as a coach. It's very, very, because I want to help, right? I'm a helper. I feel like I've got some knowledge that I want to share, and I've read this or I've read that, or I've had this experience, or I've seen this movie, or whatever the case might be. I want to just help people, and I want to just give them the answers. Here you go. Oh, okay. So, okay, here's what you need to do. And the challenge is to just shut up and listen, and to truly listen. Not listen waiting for your turn to speak, but really intently listening, so that you can allow that listening to organically give you the next question. And what has really helped me in overcoming that challenge of wanting to speak and wanting to give advice and to give solutions, to really be a consultant rather than a coach, is to stay as curious as I possibly can be. Right. So you're telling me that, we always restate questions for a checking understanding and to make sure that we stay on track. So you're telling me that, the difficulty that you're facing with patient interactions is really kind of related to your fear of performance, of not doing well. Well, what are you afraid of? So I was curious as to what they're afraid of. And then they begin to say, well, I'm really just kind of afraid of messing something up. Well, what makes you think you'd mess something up? Now we're stuck. Well, and that when they begin to, that is, as a coach, right, going back to the challenge, that opportunity for you to be quiet. Well, let me tell you something, because I understand this. I've been through this, or if I had this similar situation. Well, what you really need to do is let them be uncomfortable with that moment where they're thinking, and then just listen to what they have to say next, and to stay curious and ask that next question. So that's really one of the biggest challenges that I face as a coach, is just shutting up. As a coachee, yeah, so we're going to get a little transparent here, and that's perfectly okay. I'll say this. A lot of my content is a window into what I've experienced, what I've learned, and what I've struggled with. So when I say things like, and this is, behind the scenes stuff, right? When I say things like, be humble, when I say things like, admit what you have to admit, confront when you have to confront, don't just be willing, take action. That's what I've struggled with as a coachee, right? It's very, very difficult. And this is why I always admit it. I probably need a coach more than anybody, but it's been very difficult in my lifetime as a coachee to admit what I'm doing wrong and what I need to get better at. But I know, because I teach it, because I've discovered it, that the only way to get better is to admit it. And the only way to get past it is to confront it. It's a great question.
Absolutely. And I don't think that's unique to you. I think that's something that we all struggle with. And what I especially find powerful about coaching is that the questions and the answers are all within. It's just a matter of bringing those to the surface, which is really, really empowering.
Right.
Yeah.
The questions and the answers are within. Absolutely. And I meld these two quotes together. I think one was Shakespeare and one was Socrates. So forgive me. I think the first one is Socrates. So know thyself, right? And then Shakespeare said, to thy own self be true. And I like bringing those together, right? So first know yourself, and then to your own self be true. And these two people, these greats in their own field, separated by centuries, right? in my coaching practice have come together and have really created this beautiful line. And that's what coaching is all about. And funny enough, because we use the Socratic method of teaching in medicine, coaching is based on the Socratic method of teaching, right? Asking questions. And like I said, it is the wave of leadership in the future in terms of how I think things are going to happen from now on. I think there'll always be different leadership styles. I think there'll always be, best practices, but I think that coaches as leaders, not leaders as coaches, is the future of leadership and is the future of the way that we'll operate, not just in society, but in the workplace, or not just in the workplace, but in society.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any more questions? I have a private comment that says this has been so inspiring. Thank you. And I would agree with that comment, and gratitude to the person who said that. And, we have a minute left. And in that minute, David, again, my heartfelt gratitude to you for really a phenomenal session. I learned so much. I know I can speak for our participants that we have all learned so much. And I plan on using some of those self-coaching techniques. I'm looking forward to doing so. So again, thank you very much. And thank you to all of our participants for joining us. We hope you will join us again in another few weeks. Laura, do you have any other final comments before we close for this evening?
No, just to keep an eye out for that email in the next day or two to do the evaluation. We really encourage and appreciate your feedback, and we pass that along to the presenters. And we hope to see you in 2 weeks at the next session.
Thank you very much.
David, thank you again.
My pleasure, my absolute pleasure, my honor. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.